Good day all, welcome back to South Africa and absolutely welcome. So for this video, this is in reaction to the whole Donald Trump, Cyril Ramaphosa saga, but it's actually not so much about what was said and what was done in the White House. This has more to do with the reaction from the media, the reaction from the political sphere in South Africa, and it's actually more to do with what we call the white tribe of South Africa, or also known as the Boers, or the rest of the world, they call us Afrikaners. There is a bit of a distinction, but for this video, this does actually not matter. So the title for this video is The Fight of the White Tribe of Africa. So this is going to be quite a long video. We'll be making it in sections because it's extremely complicated. The situation in South Africa is extremely difficult to explain to people. So in the 70s and the 80s, you all know apartheid was rife. And during the 70s and the 80s, you had the Mandelas, the Joe Slovos, even Cyril Ramaphosa, the current president, and a whole string of other ANC members going abroad to basically lobby or to make the world aware of how bad the apartheid government was and all of the laws and all of those things. It actually went so far that you can actually find it on YouTube. There's in the late 80s, there's a video of the then Joe Biden that advocated within the Senate for the ANC and obviously against the apartheid regime. So in 2025, we've had the likes of AfriForum and Solidarity, which are all minority white groupings in South Africa, private groups, that are lobbying and advocating for the rights of white citizens of South Africa. And there's a reason for that. You can go have a look at all of the race-based laws, the song Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer. There's a whole list of the reasons why these organizations are lobbying. And it's quite interesting because you will see that private individuals are lobbying on social media for the crimes that are being committed against white South Africans. Now, this has been a hot topic, especially after the White House visit. Or is there a genocide? And what is really happening in South Africa? Because the current government of South Africa is really trying to hide what's going on. But because of social media, you can't actually hide it. It's not the 70s and the 80s where a government can dictate what needs to go out into the world. It's like this video. If you watch this video, you can deduct from a normal person in South Africa, a normal white person in South Africa, what is actually going on. Anyway, so in 2025, Solidarity, AfriForum, and a whole lot of individual people are lobbying to the world, saying that look at what is happening in South Africa. And it's quite ironic because the ANC is complaining about us lobbying to the world about what's happening in South Africa, but they did exactly the same. So they've actually set the groundwork for that. We are actually just copying them, I think, when it comes to showing the world what's going on. And I must say, there are a whole lot of individuals, a whole lot of white South Africans that live abroad that are standing up and making their voices heard. And I'm extremely proud of that because that is what white South Africans need. So let's get back to the video. Let me tell you, in the early 90s, the current president Cyril Ramaphosa had a conversation with an activist, and he had an open conversation, and he explained to this specific person, and it's on record actually, that they are going to be treating the white population, and he used the term boiling them like frogs. So what he meant by this is basically that you take the cold-blooded animal, you put it in a pot of water, And you slowly turn up the heat every single year or every single month or every single week. Because if you're going to throw the frog into a hot pot of water, it'll just jump out immediately. So Cyril and the ANC's method was to slowly boil the frog. And how did they actually do this? So what they did is they went ahead and they actually did it a little bit by little bit. They did it in such a way that you could not actually notice it. You couldn't physically see it, a little bit by little bit. It's like droplets dropping into a bucket, and if it keeps on dripping over a long period of time, the bucket then fills up very slowly without you actually noticing it over a period of time. So they went about in this way by creating things like BEE, where they totally pushed out the white man and the white woman from government positions, because that's the power that they got when the transition happened in 1994. They then went on later on in the early 2000s by the program called Land Reform, where they, instead of just taking land, they used taxpayers' money to then buy land for black so-called farmers. And these farms, more than 4,000 farms that I'm aware of, were extremely productive. So they bought these farms from white farmers, which was a legal way of doing it. There was nothing wrong with it because it was a willing buyer, willing seller type of scenario. But that was in effect a way to push out the white farmer. And these, like I say, extremely productive farms. The other methods they used was they created for themselves power, the levers of power. So they sat in parliament with a majority of over 60%, and they could dictate what rules and regulations could be implemented. A lot of the rules and regulations that they've implemented over the last 30 years, if you go have a nice look at them, you will realize that a lot of that is to push out the white man or the white individual or the white population in South Africa. And this led to a slowly chipping away at the dignity and at the survivability of white people in South Africa. And it eventually led to the white population in South Africa literally being bare and naked. And what I refer to this is that if a white South African wants help and they go to the court system and they go to a police station, a lot of the time they are treated like crap. They are treated like shit. Purely based on the fact that they are white and that they are seen as not important enough to be helped. The other day I watched a video of a white lady going to a public hospital and how she was mistreated because the fact that she is white, and that the nursing staff and the doctors laughed at her because she was now sick and she was in desperate need of help. The other video I watched the other day was a couple that they tried to hijack them, and they decided that they're gonna drive towards the nearest police station. And when they stopped at the nearest police station and they ran in asking for assistance and asking for help, because that is what a police station is for, they were literally beaten up and mistreated by the South African police force, purely based on the fact that they are white. So the boiling the frog method that Cyril Ramaphosa has initiated in South Africa, you can actually physically see it, because every single year they are implementing laws, regulations and acts that actually discriminates against white South Africans. And this is in order to push white South Africans out. It has actually gone so far. I think we've lost about 1 million people that immigrated to other countries. And these are people that have got skills. These are people that migrated because they've got some kind of a skill, or they've got capital. They probably had businesses and they decided that this cannot continue. And they packed up and they left. I think a good example, it's a bit of an extreme example because he's in another league, is Elon Musk. He packed up and he's left because the opportunities in America for him as a white man, it's much better than in South Africa. And many, many millions of stories of white South Africans going abroad because of the societal and governmental rules and regulations that are consistently pushing white South Africans out. So the boiling of the frog concept that Cyril Ramaphosa and the ANC has been using has been quite effective up until 2025, when the frog actually started jumping out, when the frog started talking, and when the frog started using the strategies of the 70s and 80s ANC, where we are now lobbying to the outside world and trying to explain to the outside world what is going on. So for the second part of the video, I would like to share with you crime. I want to talk about crime a little bit in South Africa. Now, I'm not an expert about this, but as a farmer, as a white South African, crime does affect us quite bad. And crime is one of the methods that the ANC is using to push out South Africans or white South Africans. And crime is one of the boiling the frog methods that they are using to get rid of white South Africans. So please stay tuned. So let's quickly talk about crime. So the things that I'm about to share with you, I never know or knew, and I never realized it until it was physically taught to me. There are individuals in South Africa that specializes in crime. I am no crime expert. I am just a normal guy. And this is how I understand how crime works. So, ironically enough, that within the Oval Office, the President of South Africa admitted that crime in South Africa is a problem. Now, if you go study crime, and you go study crime in countries, you'll understand that crime is a method used to control a country. How it's done, how it's implemented, I've got no idea, but crime and the idea of having syndicates or gangs ruling a specific sector within business or within an area or within a town or city or blocks or whatever is used in actual fact to control a country. We have a good example. They call it the construction mafia in South Africa. So when you are busy building, let's say, a big shopping mall or a big estate, these construction mafia guys will come in and they will literally blackmail you or demand you or threaten money out of you or try and get work from you or whatever the case might be. So within South Africa, we've got these, let's call them like the mafia construction. We've got this with the Eskom and the coal that goes to the power plants. We've got this with the diesel that are being burned at Eskom to generate electricity. That is a form of crime as well, although it is highly organized and it is instigated a lot of the times by the highest people in parliament. So crime in South Africa is extremely organized, okay? You get different levels of criminals. So the easiest way to explain this is you have got certain levels, and obviously at every level those individuals have got certain tasks or certain specialities that they will actually perform. Crime in South Africa does pay. crime in South Africa is a career, and it generates income for these criminals like you cannot believe. Um, I'll use an example that I was taught that I never realized until you listen to it and you understand a little bit better. Let's just try and get the light a little bit better. So let's say within the cities, you live in a house, so you'll have people walking around trying to suss out and identify a weak house or a house that could be robbed. Normally what will then happen is they will try and get inside information. And this pertains to farm attacks and farm murders as well, ladies and gentlemen, by the way. So then they will try and get information, either information from the employees working inside the house or farm. They could extract this by paying them money, or they could extract this by threatening their children's lives or whatever. So there's many ways to extract information from workers from within a farm or within a home. And then once they've got enough information, how to get in, how to get out, what's inside the house, what the threats are, they will make an assessment, and then a different team will then go and rob the house. A different team, and normally they will have a vehicle to get away with as well. So that's just in short to try and explain to you that crime in South Africa is highly organized, and it pays. Crime in South Africa pays extremely well. So I quickly want to stand still at this one specific example, and because everybody knows it, is the fact that Elon Musk wanted to introduce his Starlink to South Africa, and he had to give away 50% equity in his business, or the branch in South Africa for that matter, in order for him to meet the requirements to get a license to then be able to trade Starlink in South Africa. So when you look at that, that is extortion. That is almost, I'm not sure in law terms what to call it, but that is literally paying a bribe to a government in order to obtain a license. Now, in a fair society, in a free market system, if you want to trade, doesn't matter what, in this case Starlink, you pay licensing fees, and then you have to meet certain requirements to make it safe for the public and make it in the interest of South Africa and all of that stuff, okay? But what they've done is they are extorting money out of business by saying you can only get a license if you give 50% equity. So you understand that it's all crime related. It's as if the system that the ANC has created, and if you look at their backgrounds, you'll understand that this is actually who they are and how they run a country. They run a country on almost I don't want to say mafia style, but on a if I can get something from it, then you're welcome to continue. And that is really a way a gang operates, or a terrorism organization operates. Now, I'm not saying this is what the ANC is, but this is exactly what they're doing. They're wanting money from investors first, equity in their business, in order to trade in South Africa. And this is not healthy. You cannot, it's like going to court and you bribe the judge to make sure that he actually judges in your favor. It's exactly the same. It's a form of corruption. It's a form of crime. And you see this from Parliament down to the lowest municipal worker in South Africa. I've said this on my other channels before. If you are the lowest municipal worker, let's say you clean, you pick up papers for a living. Okay, you get paid to pick up papers. And let's say your target is you have to pick up 5 bags per day of rubbish alongside the roads. And you only start to work at 11 o'clock, and you only pick up 2 bags instead of 5. That is a form of corruption. And South Africa has degraded to such an extent that even the lowest of lowest workers do not do what they are supposed to do. And for me personally, that is a form of crime. That is a form of corruption. Although you can't prove it in a court, you had to pick up 5 bags, but you're only picking up 2 bags a day. And that is why South Africa has degraded to such an extent that certain infrastructures cannot be fixed, because that example pertains to the power lines, it pertains to roads, it pertains to water purification. Every facet of infrastructure you can think that a country needs is impacted by this almost corruption style management of South Africa. So let's get back to normal crime and how it affects normal South Africa. And the Goosen golfer, Retief Goosen, in the Oval Office testified that his buddy farmers got attacked, some got killed, and that some of them, the farms are being burned to get or chase white farmers off their farm. So that comes back to the boiling of the frog, where they are systematically, slowly intimidating people to pack up and go. I saw an article of Julius Malema saying that the people that accepted the refugee status needs to send their addresses so they can go and expropriate those farms and houses that are no longer used by these refugees going to America. It just shows you what the end goal is. The sad part is that we know that communism and socialism doesn't work. These people have got redistribution and they've got it totally wrong. So for my international viewers, South Africans will know this, and this is how South Africans safeguard themselves, or they're trying to safeguard themselves. Number one, like we decided to get knowledge about crime, to understand how crime works. A lot of people do miss this specific topic. And then people go for high walls, electric fencing, barbed wire fencing, barbed wires on top of high walls. They go for alarm systems in and outside the houses. They go for cameras everywhere. They go for private security, and then they go for sidearms or firearms, legally, obviously. So this is the extent that people go to protect themselves in South Africa. I know of farmers that's got 24-hour protection on their farm, especially during nighttime, because they are scared of being attacked. They pay for private security to protect them at nighttime, which is very, very bad. If Johan Rupert in the Oval Office said he sleeps open with his on his farm, he doesn't lock his doors, I can guarantee he's got private security. He's definitely not locking his doors because he feels, he's got private security. I can promise you that. There's absolutely no way that without security in South Africa, doesn't matter where you are in South Africa, that you're going to be safe. So that's in essence what, to the extent that South Africans go to for security, and that includes all races. If you go look at the VIP protection that Parliament members have, you'll understand a little bit better, because they're scared of stuff as well. I'm not sure if they're scared of us, or they're scared of their own people, or they're scared of I don't know what they're scared of, but apparently they are really, really scared, because some of these Parliament members have heavy armed security. So for my international viewers, South Africans will know this, and this is how South Africans safeguard themselves, or they're trying to safeguard themselves. Number one, like we decided to get knowledge about crime, to understand how crime works. A lot of people do miss this specific topic. And then people go for high walls, electric fencing, barbed wire fencing, barbed wires on top of high walls. They go for alarm systems in and outside the houses. They go for cameras everywhere. They go for private security, and then they go for sidearms or firearms, legally, obviously. So this is the extent that people go to protect themselves in South Africa. I know of farmers that's got 24-hour protection on their farm, especially during nighttime, because they are scared of being attacked. They pay for private security to protect them at nighttime, which is very, very bad. If Johan Rupert in the Oval Office said he sleeps open with his on his farm, he doesn't lock his doors, I can guarantee you he's got private security. He's definitely not locking his doors because he feels, he's got private security. I can promise you that. There's absolutely no way that without security in South Africa, doesn't matter where you are in South Africa, that you're going to be safe. So that's in essence what, to the extent that South Africans go to for security, and that includes all races. If you go look at the VIP protection that Parliament members have, you'll understand a little bit better, because they're scared of stuff as well. I'm not sure if they're scared of us, or they're scared of their own people, or they're scared of, I don't know what they're scared of, but apparently they are really, really scared, because some of these Parliament members have heavy armed security. So, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude this video, when the South African government denies that there are targeted actions against white South Africans, they are indeed lying. One can go to all the regulations and acts within a government, and you can pick them out. There's 142 race-based laws in South Africa, and there's subsections, something like 300 subsections of that. So, and you can see, especially the last 4 months, 5 months, the type of regulations and acts they've included, and the way they are specifically targeting white South Africans. You can see this, the way they talk. You've seen dozens of videos of black individuals saying that white people are this and white people are that. I'm not going to go into that now, because I can keep you busy for another hour on that. So when they say farm attacks do not happen, it's an absolute lie. And when they say that crime does only affect black people and not white people, they are lying. And there's definitely a targeted attempt at cancelling white South Africans. And you can see this within the way they talk. You can see it in the way they put regulations together, and how they are systematically pushing out white South Africans in every sphere of society, from schooling to university to business, and to being in the minds and hearts of other South Africans. You can see this. You can feel it. You can taste it. And we are witnessing this in 2025. If you've watched this far, thank you very much. Please like, share, and subscribe. And God bless.